Hey folks, so here's what we've been up to. I've got 7 cars that I brought up from the shop, and then 6 more loads of equipment, parts, and so on. 2 of the cars are just, one's my sister's and the other one's my dad's old car. So, as you can see, I've still got the trailers loaded. I've still got to unload the truck. I got back up on the last load on the night of the 31st. Fortunately, I started a month early because I guess it's my age. I just couldn't do like I would have done in my youth, where I would have just done it like one day after the next after the next. Ended up having to take a day or 2 off after each trip. You know, talking about 6 hours round trip of driving, and then however long, which varied quite a bit depending on which load it was, on getting the loads loaded up, and then of course unloading them, which I didn't do that same day. I would just park it and do whatever. So essentially, and as you can see, I've got my laundry out temporarily right there. I'll put up a clothesline once I put the trailer back on the back part of the property. So what's happened in the meantime is I was getting ready one morning on the 29th of August to do my last trip. I was literally about to get up and get dressed to take my last trip down to Fort Worth to pick up the rest of the stuff out of the shop, and then, you know, clean up a little bit in the shop and turn the keys in. And I get a call from the electric company who's got to come out and set up poles and run electric for me. And guy says, well, I'm 15 minutes away, can you meet right now? So I'm like, well, yeah. So then I ended up meeting with 2 of my neighbors that are involved in the project. One is my neighbor across the way, who, as you can see, there's the existing pole on his property that the electric will come off of. And so we had to get together so he could tell me where I could clear to get over to my property from his. So we got to go underground from that pole over to my property across here, and we're going to cut a hole in this road, and then they're going to bury the cable, and then we'll have the road commission come out and fill it back in. Fortunately for me, the next door neighbor is really good friends with the road commissioner, so he said, yeah, whatever you want to do. So anyway, so I spent about 4 hours doing that yesterday, clearing out that path so that the electric company can bury the cable over there. And not much has been done since my last video as far as excuse me, as far as the property itself, other than yesterday I did that for that path. I did do some one or 2 days of additional work up on the back half here, and we can walk up there and see what's going on. So basically this is going to be a relatively short video because there's not much advancement, but I'll also tell you what I'm going to be doing here in the next week and a half to get ready for the electric people to come out, do a final inspection of what I've got set up, and then come out, schedule the time to come out. Now he said it would take 2 days. I don't know. They'll put in up to 600 feet for free. So I don't know if that's 600 feet per installation, because I'm actually doing two services. I'm doing one for the shop and one for the house. You can't, the two of them are too far apart. I can't just install one and then run wires from that to the other. It's not going to work. It's too far. So what happens is you'll get so much voltage loss that you won't have the electric you need at the location that you're going to from the original one. So we're going to actually have to do two, and we'll probably have to have two transformers, none of which cost me any money. What I've got to have the setup ready with my breaker box and all that. They'll come in with the meter and put that in, and hook it up to the breaker box. So what we're going to do, what sucks in one way sucks, in another way it's good because my electric's getting hooked up, but because that generator's cost me a small fortune to run. But my plan originally, this is why you have to be flexible and why I've never been a planner on stuff where I get all bent out of shape if plans change. I plan big stuff, I don't plan small shit. So I had planned to take a couple weeks off after I finished with the shop. Well, obviously I'm not doing that now. So here's the back half near where the house is going to be. Now originally the house was going to be right where I've got it cleared. Well, I like to say that I need to clear things out so I can see what I can see. And what I mean by that will become apparent here when we get up to the top. My chainsaw took a shit, so I haven't been able to cut up logs, or those would already be cut up and dragged away. But I do have some that are stacked up over there that were cut up before the chainsaw died. I'm on my I had two chainsaws where I burned them up so far. So anyway, so after I cleared out behind here, because I started working over on the other half of this back half to kind of thin it out and get rid of all the brush. And in doing so, what I discovered is right back here. Now I may have mistaken where I was, because I know I walked up here and I was on this more flat part when it was totally like the first day I went back here. But back here it's much more flat, and it's basically one of the highest elevations up here. So instead of the house being up there in front of those trees, the house is going to be back here. So I've got essentially all these trees that got to go over here, and that's got to be done before the electric can come in. The other thing I've got to do, besides setting up my setup for my breaker box and that, and where the meter will go, is I've got to, in order for it to be free, they have to see evidence that I'm building a house. Now he said you need to see a pad. Well, I'm not putting a slab, so I need to touch base with them just to make sure, but I'm doing pier and beams, so I think if I start laying out and pouring my beams, my piers, that should be good enough for them. I have to do the same thing on the shop, and that's going to be a pole barn, so it's going to be a similar thing. It's going to be pads basically. So all of this has been cleared out, and then we can walk over and walk over in the other half where I started thinning out the brush over here. Now this other half, I'm going to leave a lot more trees. The pines are going to go. This is a big old rotted widowmaker that I told you about that I pushed over the last time. Got to watch for snakes this time of year. So cleared out all of this and pushed up stuff. I got a bunch of stuff to cut up and drag away, but I had to drop it because I was under the time crunch to get the shop cleared out. And like I don't know if I mentioned, but I dropped the keys off at about 8 minutes to 5 on the 31st. So right down to the wire. All right, so this has all been thinned out, and as you can see, you know, well, there's a little bit more to do, but as you can see, it's much more, looks much more where you can walk around and such. So that's what I accomplished before I had to stop. And then if we walk up this little path here, it'll take us back to where I said the house is going to be. So I'm not sure exactly. I have to wait until I start knocking down stuff to see what exactly I want to leave in terms of trees. But like I said, one thing I know for a fact is the pines are coming down, because A, they're going to be used for the lumber for the house and the shop, and B, I don't like pine needles. They're a fucking fire hazard. So they're just not I just don't like them. You know, they're great for Christmas trees. That's about it. So anyway, as you can see, we're back out where we started here, coming out in front of where I said the house is now going to be. So what I like is I'm going to be further back over in here, and then I'm a little closer to the neighbor's property than I want to, but they're weekenders right now, and worst case I'll put up a privacy fence, and I'm leaving the forest behind there anyway. Now in the winter time, when the leaves are gone, basically we probably will be able to see through to each other, but for right now I ain't gonna worry about it. So that's what we got going, and so I got to clear out a path. Basically, if you look kind of straight across through there is where that path is that I dug out yesterday for the getting to the pole. So I've got to come straight through there. That wasn't what we originally talked about with the engineer, but I like it better than what we talked about, and he left it up to me. He didn't say anything about, you know, the only restrictions are is how high up, you know, my connections are in terms of the breaker box and all that. And the other is I got to have some kind of like indication that the house and the shop are being started. And I've got to have, you know, for this I'm going to have 30 foot on either side, because on my property we're going to do poles. And then my next door neighbor over on the side where the sawmill is, he's going to come off my pole over by the shop, and he's going to get his electric at the same time. So we're working together, and as a result we're probably going to get bumped up the list, because then we got to send one crew to do more than one job. So, and they're actually getting 3 services out of it, you know, my shop and the house plus the neighbor's house. So we had a 1,000-year rain, which uncovered like some of the drawbacks to the stuff I hadn't really done completely yet. On the culvert here, I had never packed in the ends, and basically it washed stuff away from the ends on both sides. So next time I put that back in, I got to make sure I pack it in. But no harm, no foul. And I hadn't done the rest of the driveway held up pretty good on the lower end. The part leading up there, I had done the least amount of work to, so that kind of washed out a little bit to where I'm gonna have to recontour it, pack it, and all that kind of shit. And then eventually, I'm gonna have to figure out what I want to put on this for a final like rock type covering. Now, I could, if I got enough iron ore, I could just take the iron ore without any soil and collect that until I have enough, and then use the backhoe to crunch it into smaller pieces and just use straight iron ore, and that would work just fine. It'll be time consuming, but it's free except for the gas. So that'll be that. Now over here, because of where we're going to come in with the electric, this is probably not going to be a pond now, but I'll fill it in so it's kind of just below the level of that driveway, and then I'll make it slope down over here, so it'll become like a little park, if you will, across from where the creek is down over there. So all these, right across from here is where that opening is to go across to the neighbor's pole. So all this has to go. These pine trees. And then the other thing is I got to take down anything else I was going to cut down over here before they put up the lines, not by their mandate, but because I don't want to be cutting down trees right near the brand new power lines and then knock them down and have to pay to get them put back up. So, and then of course all down in there, which was going to go anyway. So I got to buy some more tarp so I can cover up some of the shit, because I got stuff sitting outside that I don't want to just perennially, just forever get wet. Stuff that's not going to matter for the short term, but I don't want it to get all rusty and crusty and whatever. I've got an expensive air compressor over here that needs a tarp on it. I've got my big toolbox and some parts that have electronics in them. I'm not worried about the dash parts so much, because they got to get rebuilt anyway. Right there, that's my first motorcycle ever. I'm the second owner. It's a 1970 Honda 750. It was my grandfather's, and he gave it to me when I turned 16. So that's got to be restored. And everything else is just parts for the cars. And then I've got, like, for instance, my hookup for my air compressor, like with my dryer and my oiler for the tools and such. Put up some solar lights. These things suck. I just wanted some kind of light out here. They're supposed to last 8 hours. At best I get 4, and that's only out of a couple of them. The rest of them, you're lucky if you get a couple hours. It's bullshit. So I look like the fucking Sanford and Son lot here right now, but it is what it is. So till next time.